Happy June, and welcome back to the Hunter's Quilt Mart Heirloom Bloom Block of the Month. This month we are working on Block 6. I will be completing it using the Bluebird's Nest fabric line, and here it is using Parlor and Ambiance. It uses fabrics 1, 5, 7, 8, and 9, and I'll be labeling each part as we go along to help you out. The full instructions and exact measurements can be found on page 17 in your pattern booklet. Let's get started. So I already have all of my fabrics pressed, and we have the 5 different fabrics, and we're making 10 different cuts. And that seems like a lot, but 3 of them are going to have the exact same cuts, so we'll be able to stack them and cut them together. I'm going to move all of these off to the side, and we're going to start with fabric number 1. So I have fabric 1, and I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to start by straightening up 2 of the sides. So I'm going to trim off my selvage, which is across the top now. My fold is across the bottom. And I'm going to straighten up this side and across the top. Oops. And then I'm going to spin the whole thing around so that my straight cut sides are here and my fold is now across the top. And we're going to make 3 cuts going across. So there's our first one. Our second one. And our third one. All your measurements are on page 17 in your pattern booklet. So we're going to start with the first cut that we made. And now I'm turning it so my fold is over here and all of these sides are already cut straight. And we need 4 squares. And this will be your extra. And these 4 squares are going to be A. And then we're taking our next piece and we're cutting 1 long rectangle. Move these off to the side over here. And the rectangle is going to be B. And then our last piece, we need 3 squares. So there's 2 of them since they're already folded in half. And I just need 1 more. So I'm just going to open this up. And this is extra. And there's our next one. And this is C. So that's it for fabric 1. Next, we're going to use fabrics 5, 7, and 8. And all 3 of these need the exact same cuts. Just for viewing purposes, I'm going to put fabric 7 on top because I think you can see it better with the camera. So I'm just stacking these all up. And I'm going to straighten up 2 sides to start with. So I'm going to straighten up this side on the right, and then I'm going to go across the top. And now I have 2 straight sides, and I'm going to rotate it so that my straight sides are now over here. And I need to cut 2 squares from each fabric. And since they're all stacked up, we can do it all together. They're exactly the same measurements. And so I am using the measurements on my ruler to line up my first cut. And then I need a second cut. This is a different size square, so make sure you're looking inside your pattern booklet and you're getting the exact measurements. So this is fabric 7. From fabric 5, your larger square is going to be D, and your smaller square is going to be E. For fabric 7, your larger square is F, and your smaller square is G. And for fabric 8, your large square is going to be H, your smaller square is I, and we have one more fabric to cut, and that is fabric number 9. And we just need 1 square from this. So I'm going to trim 2 sides this way. And then I'm going to spin it around. And now my squared up sides are over here. And I just need 1 square. Oops. And that's fabric 9. And this is cut J. And now we're ready to start piecing our block. Our block today has several half square triangles, and we are going to be making those using 2 different methods. The first one I'm going to demonstrate using fabrics 1 and 9 because those are nice and bright and you'll be able to see them against my board. So we're going to take cuts A and J, and you're going to flip A over and draw a diagonal line on the back. And then you're going to take J and you're going to put A on top of it. And you're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch down each side. So I'm bringing it to the sewing machine. I have my 1/4 inch seam foot, and I'm going to line it up so that the line is just under the edge of my foot. If you're using diagonal seam tape, that means that you're going to be lining your line up to go with your black line of your seam tape. And we're going to sew all the way down. And then we're going to turn it around, and we're going to go back down the other side. So there's our sewn piece. And you're going to cut right on that line. And we've made several half square triangles so far this year, but I'll demonstrate again how to trim those up. So one of them we trim before we press, and that is using the Quilt in a Day Triangle Square Up Plus ruler. And so we line up our stitched line on the size of the block that we want. And then you'll trim both sides. Whoops. Line that up again. And you're going to trim both sides. And use those little notches to trim the dog ears. And then you can press. And we are pressing to the darker side. And there's one of our blocks. The other block we're going to press first. For this one, I'm going to trim it using just a regular ruler. And you're going to line up on the diagonal line the seam of your half square triangle. And trim up 2 of the sides. And then you'll turn it around and do the same thing again. This time you're making sure that the edges are exactly the size that you're needing this to be when you're finished, and the diagonal line lines up on the seam line. And that makes 2 half square triangles, and that's AJ. You're going to do the same thing to make 2 using piece D, F, and H. And so that makes 8 of our half square triangles that we need. I'm going to pick these up and move them off to the side. Now we're going to use pieces C and E. So this is fabric 1 again, and this is fabric 5. And we're going to take C, fabric 1, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to draw a diagonal line. This time, the diagonal line, we are going to be sewing directly on it. In the past, on the other set, we cut on it, so it really didn't matter what we drew our line with. This time, you want to make sure it's not too dark because it will show through on very light material or very light fabric. So we're going to take this and you're going to line it up. And you're going to sew directly on the line. So this is one of those cases where you're going to have a pretty large piece left over when you're done with this stitch and flip method of making a half square triangle. So if you want to utilize that, you could go ahead and draw, spin this around so I can see it better, a line 1/2 inch away. And we're going to sew on both lines, and then we'll have this other piece over here as an extra that we won't need for this one, but we might need for a bonus project. So again, we are stitching directly on the line this time. So we're starting with this one right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew on that other line. So there it is. And for these, when I'm doing the stitch and flip method, I like to press first to make sure it lines up perfectly before I cut. So I'm going to press to the dark side, making sure that those edges line up, because this one is not going to need to be trimmed. It's going to be exactly the size that you need it to be. So there it is. And then I'm going to pull this back and we're going to trim off that extra piece. So I'm putting my 1/4 inch line on my ruler right on my seam line and cutting those apart. And this is the piece that we need. And this is going to be an extra piece. So we do not need this for this project. It'll just be a little bonus one that maybe we can use for something else. So you are going to make this using fabric 5 and also using fabric 8. So you'll need one extra of both of those. And now we're ready to put the whole thing together. So we have 3 of these half square triangles using H or fabric 8, and we have 3 of these, and we're going to need our fabric G and the 2 half square triangles that we did using fabric 7 or cut F. So we're going to start by making a little basket for this block, putting these 2 together like this. And then we're going to use fabric 5 here, and we're going to use fabric H or fabric 8 here. So this should make a big giant triangle. You should have these on the outsides, and this should make a little L. All of your triangles should be pointing back towards this square. And we're going to sew all of this together. I'm going to start by putting these 2. And start with these. Starting up there, we're going to sew 1/4 inch all the way down. And then my next one. Okay, and there's our first 3. So this opens up like this. The top row, we are going to be pressing to the right. The middle row, we're pressing to the left, and the bottom row, we're pressing to the right. There we go. And now we're going to sew each one of these pieces on. Okay, we're starting with our top row, lining up those corners. And here's our bottom row. And here's our 3 rows. And again, we're taking the top row and going to the right, to the left, and to the right. There we go. There's our main part. And now we need to put these together. So here it is again. I'm folding the top one down, and we're going to sew across here. Because we pressed our rows in opposite directions, those seams are going to nest. I'm going to make sure those are lined up. Lining up those next ones. And I'm going to finger press this back just so I can put the bottom row on. And here's our bottom row. I'm going to flip it up, and it's going to go right on this one. We're going to line up that corner. And these seams will nest as well. And there it is. And when we press this, we're pressing all of our seams down. So that means I'm putting my bottom row on the very top, and then I'm going to fold it back. And then I'm going to do the same with that other seam. There we go. And this unit is done. And now we just have to add the other pieces to it. So we have cut B. We have 2 of these rectangles. One of them will go on this side, and one will go on this side. And then our half square triangles using J will go like this. And the leftover little square will go down here in the corner. We need to sew these together like this. We're going to line up those corners. And then we're doing the same with the other one, the bottom that goes across the bottom. And for both of these, we are pressing towards the large rectangle away from the half square triangle. And now we're just sewing these together. This one here and this one to here. I'm going to get that started. Make sure that these seams nest right here. And then I'm making sure that these corners are lined up. And then here's our bottom piece. So the top part, we are pressing towards the large rectangle, so we're pressing it this way. The bottom piece, we're going to press towards the half square triangle. And then all we have to do is sew this on. Okay, so lining up those far corners. Making sure these line up. And now lining up these seams here so that they nest. And then we're going all the way to the corner, making sure everything is lined up. And for this, we are pressing towards that bottom row. And that is our final block. When we put it in our quilt, it will look like this. When you complete this block, you will have half of your blocks done. So we are halfway done with our Heirloom Bloom block of the month. See you next month.